We're using two resources from Click to Science PD today, Practice Getting Ready and Identifying a STEM Learning Goal. These resources are designed to help trainers or site directors support after-school staff as they are preparing to lead STEM activities. You can find them at clicktosciencepd.org or download them from the webinar in the Files to Download pod at the bottom right of your screen. So let's start by thinking about what we are getting ready for. And this is from the resource Practice Getting Ready down there in the Files pod. So if you'd like to download that now to follow along with us, please do. And so what does it look like when we engage youth in engineering? Please share your ideas in the chat box of what it looks like when we engage youth in engineering. We'd also like to know, where do you like to go to find good engineering activities for your program, and how do you help youth connect engineering to their life? So please share some ideas in the chat pod so we can get everyone's juices flowing this afternoon about what it looks like when we engage youth in engineering, where you find good engineering activities for your programs, and how you help youth connect engineering to their lives. Excellent. So we've got some good ideas coming through in the chat. It sounds like engineering is loud, it's messy, youth are making mistakes, taking chances, and there's also a couple ideas of where to find some engineering activities on Pinterest, and then engineering is everywhere. So great, keep sharing those ideas. We've included some of our favorite resources for high-quality engineering activities in the web links pod. So you'll see a web resources pod under the chat pod, and this has links to a lot of different sites where you can get engineering activities. So you just essentially click on one of those and then select the Browse To button, and it'll take you in a new window to that page. So we have the Click to Science Learning module, Getting Organized to Do STEM, with links to the video that we'll be watching later. And eWeek is February 21st through the 27th, and the site has a lot of resources to help you celebrate engineering next week or anytime you'd like to do that with in your programs. Design Squad on PBS has engineering activities, games, and videos. PBS Zoom has activities from the show and activities sent in by viewers. How to Smile has more than 3,500 high-quality science and math activities. And Engineering is Elementary has free curriculum designed for 3rd through 5th grade students in OST programs. We also have Try Engineering is a source for great activities, role models, and career planning tips for future engineers. And so we will look at more on the engineering design process from Science Buddies.
Good job highlighting all those resources, Melissa. There's a lot of great sources there, and we have some others that were shared in the chat box as well, so I'll try to get those added later on so that you can search those as well. The activity we're going to be talking about today is designing a better candy bag, and that's one that is from Try Engineering, one of their activities. And we're going to use this to frame our discussion about how to prepare yourself to engage youth, because it helps to think about a specific activity as you're getting prepared. If you want more details or to the full activity, you can download that from the Downloads pod in the lower right-hand corner. In this activity, you'll see that youth are working in pairs to design, build, and test their own candy bag. Through the activity, they'll have opportunities to experience the engineering design process and make connections to STEM careers. This is a brief outline of kind of how that activity starts. As I said, you can download the full activity, but it'll kind of give you a sense for what's happening. As youth design, build, and test their candy bag, they're going to be applying a lot of their STEM skills. They'll predict the volume and strength of their design, sketch it, create a model, and then test their candy bag. After testing, it's helpful for them to have time to redesign their bag and improve it. In order to accommodate that, we're going to imagine that this session this activity takes place over about 4 sessions in an after-school program, so they have time to test it and redesign it. And then in the last session, the 5th session, we're going to have them present their design to the whole group so that they get that full process of engineering design from coming up with an idea to presenting that idea to others. With this activity in mind, what we're going to do today is look at how staff in a YMCA after-school program think about preparing themselves for the engineering design challenge that they're planning. It's a different activity than the one we're featuring here. So what I want you to do is pay attention to that and think about how it applies to this activity of designing a better candy bag. Pay attention to how the staff prepare themselves and why do they think it's important to prepare for the activity. They'll talk about that as we go back. If you want to watch the video again, it is one of the first web links in the web resources pod, so you can go back and find that video later. But just think about what they're doing to prepare themselves, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit, and then why do they say that's important.
First, we got some bubble wrap, your cardboard box, 2 rags.
Listen and watch as Denise and Jaime prepare to facilitate the STEM activity with youth. Look for ways that they have organized the materials to ensure for the successful STEM outcomes of the activity. With communication and pre-planning, staff are confident and comfortable leading the activity and are able to focus on ensuring STEM learning by youth.
Packaging engineers, they're the ones who construct and build the actual box. They do a lot of different sciences like physics, chemistry.
Do you think that packaging engineers just plan on one drop? No, they plan on anything that could happen from point A to point B, right?
When we pick an activity, I make sure that I have a lot of background information.
We account for mistakes or issues or anything that could come up along the way, and we pre-plan on how we could avoid it or how we could get around it. Typically, we'll get together and we'll pull out our curriculum, and as we're picking every activity, we collaborate on it. Like, does this sound like a cool activity to run? Yep, like the kids will be into it. What are the things we need? What are the things we need to prepare for?
And then we'll put these 2 straws.
Something that helps us a lot in being prepared for the lesson is trying it beforehand. We always jump on the opportunity to test run it, so that way the day of, we know how it's going to come out. When it comes to materials, we have an awesome director that we pretty much could just hand her the list of materials of stuff that we need, and she'll run out and get it for us.
Just making sure we have everything that we need just makes everything go really smooth.
Is there any more cotton balls I can use?
Yeah, you guys want more cotton balls? I'll go ahead and bring you guys some. This is your rags. Your guys' rags are right here. Be careful. Remember, this is all you guys are getting. That's where the egg's going to stay.
But then we're gonna need sides.
What are you guys putting on the sides, the cotton ball or the bubble wrap? Which one do you guys think is going to work better?
We can put the cotton balls on the bottom. Okay, yeah.
On the side? That's good.
So we're going to pull up a to-do list, and we want you to think about what did this set of staff do to prepare themselves for the activity, and what are the things that you do to prepare yourself. Now, they were doing an egg drop challenge. It's a little bit different activity, so it has different sets of resources. But we think that that process of getting ready is very similar, no matter what engineering challenge you're doing. So what are the things that you think it is important to have on your to-do list for STEM? Go ahead and share some ideas in the chat box. I see some things coming up, and some of them are things that they mentioned in the video as well, that they do research so they know what's going to happen. One of the things they mentioned is they try to do the activity. That's what Sarah just typed too. That's important too. What else do you think about as you're preparing? I'll mute the microphone so you can type.
So it looks like everyone has been able to share their ideas. Thank you so much for doing that. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit about preparing yourself to engage youth in engineering. And so we have PowerPoint. So here is the graphic. And there are a lot of pieces to think about as you prepare yourself to engage youth in engineering. And this graphic gives you some questions to think about. Once again, it is in the files to download pod, so you can go ahead and download this as a PDF and use it after the webinar. So for a single activity, you should focus on 2 to 3 of these areas and think about how to emphasize them throughout the whole activity. So today we're going to focus on these 2 areas with the activity that we are preparing for. And so we are going to focus on the parts of the engineering design process they will use and what will youth learn or be able to do. So these 2 places right here. And we're also going to talk a little bit about objectives. So let's start by thinking about setting an objective for the candy bag activity. There were some objectives included in that activity from Try Engineering. So let's start there and see if they are a good fit.
These were the objectives that were set out in the activity as it was written. And what we want to acknowledge is those may not always be the ones that are the good fit for your program, and there may be something else that you'd like to emphasize in this activity. And if you have another idea that you'd like to add, you can put that in the chat box. But we've got a quick poll so you can kind of vote on which of these particular outcomes you think are most important to emphasize. They all may be part of how you're doing the activity, but you can't emphasize this many outcomes in the activity. So go ahead and vote on the one you think would be most important to emphasize with the youth that you would be leading the activity with. All right, I'm going to put this away and we'll talk about how we could accomplish some of these goals. So in our poll, the ones that we had the most emphasis on were the engineering design process, teamwork, and making and testing predictions. So let's think just a bit more about those. As I'm emphasizing the engineering design process, I'm going to work to be very explicit with the youth about what part of that process we're working on. And I find it very helpful to have a visual aid. So I'm going to put together some sort of poster to put in the room that everyone can see. It may be something that is pre-printed, or it may just be something that I create myself, or some I put on the whiteboard so we can think about what that process is, and it gives me a visual to point to as we're talking about where we are in that process. The reason it's important to be explicit is so that they understand as they're going through that process what those steps are, because they may do it naturally without knowing how that process applies. So they're going to learn about the process as they do it. We also wanted to think about teamwork and how they can work on teams. So I'm going to focus on how team members can take turns. And I know that working as part of a team isn't necessarily something that comes easily to youth and after-school programs, so I'm going to take some time to talk about how we work as a team and do a quick team-building activity at the beginning of each day we're working on this activity to emphasize to them that working as part of a team is important to me, so they know that I value that and I want them to be developing those skills, and they know what skills it is that help them be part of a team. And the other one we talked a lot about was making and testing predictions. That was one that had about 7 votes from the group. So if that's important to me, I'm going to actually focus on predictions and keep a list of the predictions that they're making in their groups about which of their designs they are selecting, how they think those designs are going to work out and then what the results are. I might have a big piece of paper to write that on, or again, and I could use a white and explicit that we're thinking about what we think is going to happen, making a prediction, and then actually doing some testing and paying attention to those results. We'll get to the point where teams can add those results themselves, so I don't have to do that. But initially, I'll probably have to spend some time structuring that and letting them know that it's important. And as we think about each of these different ones, you can see why we can't emphasize all of these at the same time, because each of these particular outcomes is shaping a little bit how I'm going through that activity. So it's important to know what I'm focusing on and be clear on what I'm trying to accomplish.
So the other question I had wanted to explore from our model was what parts of the engineering design process will youth be using? So let's think a bit more about what this process looks like and why it is important for youth. Essentially, engineering is a process of designing a solution to a problem. That is why the first step is defining the problem. So here we call it identifying. From there, you may find yourself jumping back and forth between steps. So for example, if you get to the step of choosing a solution and don't find the solution that you want to try, you'll come back and work to better define exactly what the problem is. And then you can move on to brainstorming more solutions and choose one to develop and test. So if you need more resources on the actual engineering design process or graphics for that, please check out the link Engineering Design Process on Science Buddies in the Web Resources pod.
Now, as we're emphasizing the engineering design process, I wanted to share with you some specific strategies that can help you support that. And these strategies come from the Incorporating Engineering Design Challenges. That paper is one of the downloads in the box in the lower right-hand corner if you want to see the whole report. But I'm just going to share with you some highlights from that study from the National Center for Engineering and Technology Education about what we can do to support the engineering design process as we're leading activities with youth. So as you're making this part of how you approach things in your program, you may find the need to establish some new norms about how things work and engaging youth as active learners and problem solvers, because they may not always be thinking of themselves as taking an active role like that. So you're going to have to support them in making that transition to really being in charge of the learning and solving problems for themselves rather than coming to somebody else to find out if they've got the right answer. So the first strategy that can really help them develop these skills is to solve real-world problems. It helps them develop the skills that engineers need, and it also really seems to motivate their engagement, particularly for youth that are not typically represented in STEM jobs like women, minorities, and people with physical disabilities. When they can see a problem as socially relevant and interesting, they're more motivated to engage and try to solve that problem. Another strategy to accomplish this is to incorporate challenges that exist in your own community. Consider issues related to water, trash disposal, traffic, access to transportation, or other things that might be important in your community, no matter what size it is, and think about how that can align, how you can align the interest your students have and things that are happening in their own community with the engineering problems you're trying to solve. And we've got a great list in those web resources of places you can go to find particular engineering activities. So hopefully you can find something that aligns with issues that really matter to the youth in your program and your community. The next one is about having them take more ownership, and that's a big shift, but it's something that's important for you to work on to help them shift their expectations from looking for one answer to a question which is typical in a lot of the test taking and standard learning they're doing, to working as a team to solve an ill-defined problem that may have more than one good answer. So you need to be prepared to support youth in taking ownership of their own learning. And there are some particular Click to Science skills that can help you with this. I encourage you to look at the skills of giving youth control and encouraging collaboration. Those both can really help with building the background to help youth take ownership. We also want to change their expectations of failure. You need to support them in seeing that it's okay to fail and that failing is part of the process. Engineers intentionally push their designs to the point of failure. When a design fails, it provides the opportunity to examine weak points and redesign it to be a better solution. So we want to encourage youth to test and redesign their solutions and see it as an iterative process. That's the heart of engineering, not something that they're going to do just one time and be done. You may also need to think about how you can provide a little bit of extra support for students who are not accustomed to failing in a traditional classroom setting. It can be particularly frustrating for students that are used to getting the right answer the first time to go through this process, so they might need some extra support. Finally, we want to set up activities that encourage collaboration and the development of teamwork. You may even need to teach these skills directly, things like taking turns and actively listening to others. Youth who are developing their teamwork skills as they're getting started might be more successful in small groups. That's why the candy bag activity is designed to work in groups of 2, so that they can develop those skills in a small group. And then once they get better at working as part of a team, you can start looking for challenges that can be done in groups of 4 to 6, which challenges them to continue to build their skills in collaborating and communicating as they're working in a larger group. These are all strategies that research has shown engage youth and support them in the engineering design process, and they also give us the opportunity to build skills that youth are going to use in the real world, no matter what sort of career they follow. Melissa, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Sandra. That was great information that you shared with us. And so now I'm going to do a very brief site demonstration to show you where to find these resources. So I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me now as I get that pulled up. And I am on the Click to Science website. I have logged in, so I'm assuming most of you are registered for the site, but if you are not, please go ahead and register so that you can log in and have access to all of these great resources. So Click to Science PD has great resources you can use for staff training or personal development. Today I'm going to highlight some of the skills that can help you engage youth in engineering. Engineering helps youth bring together their skills in science, math, and technology, and it will also give you a chance to bring together your skills in facilitating STEM. So a crucial skill in working with youth, especially when they're working in teams, is encouraging collaborative STEM work. And so that skill is located under interacting with youth during STEM. We have a lot of resources that you can use here. So you can see that there are 4 different learning modules that provide opportunities to see this skill in action. You can use these on your own to build your skills or as part of training for your staff or volunteers. There are also tips like using positive language to model how you want youth to speak to each other in their team that you can encourage your staff to look at while they're doing STEM activities or before, just to reinforce using that skill as part of that STEM experience. And there is also a whole suite of professional development resources you can use with staff and an activity that gives staff the opportunity to practice the skill as they lead a collaborative activity with youth. So you can scroll through these professional development resources to find one that's a good fit for your professional development needs, and then download the activity so that they can practice what they see in the video learning module. So another strategy for using Click to Science is to incorporate bits of training into your work. So here I'll select the professional development resources at the top of the page and look at the meeting resources. So I'm going to select those meeting resources, and I can narrow it down by skill because, as you can see, all of the meeting resources are just listed here, and I don't think that's a very useful way to use the site. So I'm going to scroll down specifically looking for meeting resources in Making Connections to STEM Careers. And now I have 4 resources to select from that I can use as part of my monthly staff meeting with my staff. So all of these are either 15 or 30 minutes, and a lot of them can be used virtually as well. So I can just decide which one is the best fit for my team and would be the best to use as part of our professional development plan. And finally, there's an option for doing professional development on your own time. So using our self-directed lessons, you can develop your own skills or have your staff work independently to build a skill and earn 2 hours of continuing education units. So let's look at the skill of giving youth control. And clicking on the link to Better Kid Care takes me to the self-directed lessons. So you come to a landing page, and then you would click here to register or sign in to access Click to Science lessons on Better Kid Care. And if you are already a user, you sign in. If you are not already a user, you would select No, I am a new customer and go through the registration process. And then to find the Click to Science lessons, click on the lesson series or courses on this left-hand menu, and then Click to Science is at the top. So I would scroll down and find Giving Youth Control, click to access the lesson, and then I can begin taking it from there. So these online lessons are only $5 and include videos, some hands-on activities, quizzes, and reviews to be sure that you're actually learning as you do the lesson. And they also have some great resources for you to use in your programs, and you'll receive a certificate in your CEUs at the end of that lesson. So I am going to go ahead and go back to our meeting room. So we want to thank you for participating today. We will post a recording of this webinar on the website so you can share it with colleagues who weren't able to join us today, or watch it whenever you need to brush up on preparing yourself to do some engineering activities with youth. We'll leave the webinar open for a bit, so if you want to check out the web links and download any of the files in the Files to Download pods, you can do that. We used Click to Science resources, Practice Getting Ready, and identifying a STEM learning goal today to develop the content for this webinar. So please download those resources if you'd like to do a training similar to this with your staff, and be adapted as you need to, just like we did. So we adapted it to a virtual environment to incorporate chat, and you can adapt it to include different activities or different subject matter that you find is really important for your staff. Please also continue to stay in touch with us and let us know if there are any ways we can partner with you or any other ideas you have for webinars or content that you'd like to see in the future. So our next webinar Wednesday is scheduled for March 30th, and the topic is supporting youth in developing a STEM identity. We also encourage you to connect with us on social media. We are very active on Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, and we share lots of ideas for making STEM click. If you are not already registered, once again, for Click to Science, sign up for full access to the site and to get our monthly update of ideas and resources for STEM. That's where you'll get links to register for the webinars, our new blog content, and any other content that we're promoting at the time. And if you're planning to attend the Beyond School Hours or National After School Association conferences in March, please look for us. We'll have a booth in the exhibit hall, and we'll be presenting sessions. So we'd love to have you stop in and let us know what you think about Webinar Wednesday. So thank you so much for joining us. And once again, the room will stay open for just a moment. So if you have questions, type them into the chat pad. Otherwise, download the files, click the web resources, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.